3:30 to 4:30 p.m. For the record, I'm Suzanne LaFrance, and we also have
Felix Rivera,
Pete Peterson,
Daniel Bowen, Lance Wilbur,
and then also from
Saxon Shear,
Shelley Rowe. And then we have a few members of the public here too. Yeah. That's right.
You ready?
We're ready.
All right. Follow me.
All 7 people dropped off. Now there's only 2. Guess it wasn't as exciting as I thought.
Jason.
My wife's a chemo. Those who didn't dress like Suzanne go this way. You can go the other way.
Through the puddle.
No breaking the class up. Everyone here, the kids in the back, I'm telling you. I only want to say this once. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. I don't know, how many, have any of you been here on the site before? Is this your first time? You've been in that parking lot. Hopefully while it was under construction and not looking for something. Right?
No, when it was supposed to be just like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what I thought I would do is just maybe really start with some basic stuff. Kind of let you know generally when we started, where we are right now, and then I will give some overview. Saxon can give us a little bit of details about the project, and then we had a lot of questions, and hopefully we gave you some answers from the list of questions we got from the assembly. I know that I've got a couple more to work with. And so one of them, I think the assembly asked for, was the list of the subcontractors. We provided those I provided those verbally yesterday. So I'm working with the prime contractor to make sure that our numbers are right, to make sure, but in total, the amount that we've spent and how much is owed to the subcontractor. So, and again, what I'd ask you to do, just ask me any questions as you get to a point where you kind of want to ask them. So what you're looking at right now is basically the project site itself. Generally, the fence there to the west, or to the east, over there is the project limit. The fence here to the north is to the north side. The fence to the south would be the limit on that end, and then to the east, what's going to happen is we walked sort of through some construction. When the project is actually completed, there will be a separation between the Navigation Center facilities and APD. There will be basically a barrier between APD and the Navigation Center. Where we are standing right now is generally where the west end of the building would be. This would be one side of the building. That would be the footings for one side. This part down here would be the other side. And then down on the end, we can walk down there, but generally at the end of where it is, that's where the other piece would be. And then generally 1,000 square feet. The entrance into the facility will come in basically through that gate over there that's open. People will come in one way, and where the gravel is on the other side of the plywood right here, that would be basically diagonal parking. That would the entrance would be from the south side. They would come in here, and then when they leave, they can go that way and then exit out that direction in the back. The clearing that we've done for all of the site, a lot of that material that you see out there is material that was in a part of this parcel that really we had to do a lot of excavation to get down to better soil, and then we had to do some backfilling. Not all of that came from here. It was pretty much site specific, but one of the things that we were able to do in our permitting process is we were able to work with the state to allow us to keep that material on site. We're going to spread it around rather than have to truck it off, and then it will be basically all of that will generally be grass for the most part. And if for some reason in the future there's a need to expand or do something like that or put some other use on there, the permitting process that would be required has basically already been accomplished. We do not have any plans for that, but generally that's how that would happen. When we were asked to stop in September, one of the things that we had to do to make sure that we met all the requirements of our stormwater permit, which meant we had to fill some holes. We had to take care of that area out there, make sure that it's getting stabilized. If we have to shut down for the winter, we'll probably have to do a little bit more work out there, smooth that out, get it covered and protected so that it's not it doesn't go off the ground. So where we are right now is we started the construction we started the clearing and the construction somewhere around mid-July when we had all of our permits to do that. We turned our contractor, Roger Pickle, who gave them permission to go ahead and start. They brought in material. They've used some subcontractors for the surveying of the site. They used some subcontractors, to set the forms in place. The hauling in of the rock and the gravel was done by subcontractors. The prime contractor did a lot of the moving of the work. But so far, the subcontracting work has been on the clearing, the surveying, the foundations, the one form that we were going to pour over here. We didn't get a chance to put that in there. So that's where the subcontractors have on this. Obviously, Roger Hickle has more involved and more invested in the project to date. At the time, we were on a path to be able to hopefully open and have the structure open and be able to move into, I think, by January. So that was our target date that we were working on the path. Where we are right now is we're literally on hold. We gave Roger Hickle the stop. We've been working with the assembly to try to answer their questions, to make sure that they recognize how we got to where we are, where we want to go, and the steps that we took to get here, and then the steps that we didn't take. And we're really trying to make sure that we catch up with that. We rectify those things. Not to speak for the assembly, but they're interested to know how much we owe the contractor, including the subs. In total, it's around $3 million, a little more than $3 million. We asked the assembly for 4.9, and the reason we asked for more than that is because our plan was to make good on the commitments that they had and get us to a place where we had the foundation done, the slab poured, the material delivered, and then from then we pointed out in our first work session, to get everything operational, we would need an additional $4.3 million. We do not have those funds identified right now. So, that is the next step. But I think the last thing I'll mention, and open it up to questions, would be, our efforts to give the contractor the go-ahead to move forward on the packages. We've worked with them for guaranteed maximum prices on each one of those. And then when we gave the assembly the answers to our questions, I think it was either question 6 or question 26, we talked about how much money each of those were the guaranteed maximum prices we had agreed to. They obviously hadn't completed all of that work because they were going to continue that process. So The things that are going to probably jeopardize those guaranteed maximum prices are a significant delay, or if for some reason there's a really long delay in the process, just the price of construction, not just this site, but every site, it's really going up, primarily for vertical, but our horizontal stuff is also experiencing the same thing. We've mentioned that the original estimate on this thing, and I think it's at 65%, was around was less than the $13.3 million with, and that included the contingency. From when we started this process through that point in time, the construction pricing just in the market, not just this project, it's normally like 2 to 3%. It's beyond 8%, and depending on what you're buying, it's as up as 30%. So it's not necessarily unique to this project because of lack of planning or lack of accurate numbers. It's just the price of the commodities coming up, and those are things that we can't control. And I, the private industry and we at Public Works, and we're experiencing those same things. So again, I appreciate you guys all coming out here, and particularly for those who haven't been here for the first time. But if you have any questions about the operations, I really will not be able to answer those. I mean, really, I'm going to yield to the health department. I can't tell you much about that. But as far as what we've done, where we are, where we would like to go, I think if the Assembly was obliged to help us move forward with the $4.9 million, I think we could get started again in October and November and probably have this foundation in place, within a month. If it gets really, really cold, then it starts to get really, really expensive. And then, when you start getting into December and January, it just gets really expensive to heat. And so, if the Assembly elects to fund the work and support the work that we've committed to HICL to date, and then want to figure out how you guys want to move forward, we'll work with Roger HICL about that piece. And then I guess I keep having these thoughts. The one other piece I would mention, this structure that we've ordered, it's purposely designed for this site. If it's gonna go up someplace else, this all has to be done again. You can't pick it up and put it on the parking lot. You're gonna have to build these foundations. You're gonna have to put a floor on it. The heating units that were ordered for it are all special purpose for the purpose of the navigation center. So I just want to make that clear. Anyway, I hope I answered some of your questions, and fire away to the ones I didn't.
Thanks, Lance. And I want to know what's going in my cross.
So, with the utilities underneath.
Yeah, Pete. So there's 3 utilities. There's water, sewer, and storm drain. The storm drain is probably beyond 75%. It's probably closer to 90% done. The water is probably 50 to 65% done, and the sewer is, probably at 25% done.
And what about electric?
I think I'm not sure if all of the electric is in. Saxton, do you know if the utilities are?
It's teed up. They're prepared to bring it to the site. So
Okay.
it trenches in through the pad, but they got to build the pad to trench it out
Yep.
to connect with the existing.
Yep.
I don't know if this is a question for you, Lance, but being in the space, it feels smaller than I expected from the presentations. I'm having a little bit of difficulty visualizing what partial occupancy would look like. I know that's something that has been talked about. Maybe, I think had this proceeded, it would have been by November, and maybe now, I don't know what time we're thinking of, but how would that function? Because the sprung structure,
Right.
how many pieces is that in, or what does it look like to assemble that? Where would you have people?
So I think the part to answer your question, Daniel, the partial occupancy would be once the structure is in place. People could be in the structure while other parts of the building, the walls and the fixtures are being installed. That's the partial structure. How the HICL contractor does work that has partial occupancy. They've done it for schools. They've done it for offices where they work around the purpose of the building there. How it would work with the clients,
I do not know. I mean, but as far as our contractor would be and how we would work with the structure, Roger Hickle and crew have done that before. But
So you got the whole sprung structure, and then just putting up walls and layouts. And
yeah,
inside.
they would be in one portion of the building while we're constructing in another portion of the building. So I don't think that's just some outside, but doesn't have a lot of the inside graphics. But generally, that's the concept. It would be like remodeling your home. When you don't have use of your downstairs bathroom, you have use of your upstairs bathroom, or you're cooking on the stairs. I don't know how the kitchen's being. So generally that works. I mean, I had.
So I have two questions.
Yep.
One, parking for APD there, are they fine?
Yeah. Yes, I think Suzanne. They had some secured storage at this location. We have that over next to municipal buildings over by maintenance and operations on the Tudor campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this pad we're standing on, which would be the part of the foundation.
Yep.
What can you tell me about it? Like I had heard that it would be like 10 feet of gravel or so would need to be on there. And is that what we're
Yep. So
looking at here?
I'll start, and then
Okay.
I'm gonna have Saxton jump in on the type. So basically, the level we have this still has to be built up a little bit. I would probably say, maybe another foot, because this is the height of the footings. Obviously those would come off. So the slab is just about this high, all the way across. So it's pretty close. Obviously, the parking would be the same height on the other side of the foundation there, but I could not tell you the quantities that we have in here. I know I'm working with them, but I mean, basically it's typical commercial fill material that any commercial facility would have to put in the ground. I mean, if you look at the height, I mean, that's natural ground height over there. And except for, I think, one corner, as I mentioned earlier, where they had to dig out, they had to put more in that location. But generally, we put it on top. So I don't think that's 10 feet, but I think it's 10 feet. At least not right here.
No, you can see that side hasn't been poured yet.
Yep. So the foundation, I mean, it's going to be
Pretty close to the level with that. It's 46 inches. And this is peeled back so that we can pour it. And then it'll be pushed in and then they'll compact it and it'll be got this level, which means they still got to fill in this area over here.
And I want to note we've been joined by Assembly Counsel Dean Gates. I think, are you fine, Lance, taking questions from
Absolutely,
folks who
yeah.
are here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Cool. I was curious about what needs to be done to protect the site and make it usable. All the work that's already been done in the spring for this project to continue if there's a pause, or if the assembly decides to set this project aside and wants to protect this site and keep it usable for a different city project in the
Sure.
future.
Yeah. So the first thing we would have to do is we're pretty much 90% done with winter shutdown. I mean, we're not going to do any other. I mean, other than the purpose that we've got going on right now, we don't have another purpose in place. So we would smooth out those piles over there, and I think Saxton, correct me if I'm wrong, but other than that, we've met all of the requirements for the state's stormwater pollution plan.
That's correct. Just have to stabilize the organics with a attack of fire. So we track walk, flat those out, hydroseed that,
And then
we're
for the
ready
winter,
for
that would be
winter
what we
shutdown.
do. We wouldn't do anything with this until we figure out what we would do with it, right? The next step. But if we continue, obviously we'll continue when we left off on something. Does that answer your question?
I have a list. Can I go?
Go ahead, Felix.
Thanks. So, aside from those trees, has any other plant life been taken out of the site?
I mean, I think there were trees pretty much. There were a lot of trees, except for right in here.
Yeah.
There were police cars in here, but generally that's pretty much it.
So we're not expecting to need to take out any other.
No.
Okay.
No, that's the one.
All right. What did this site used to be? Used to be a parking lot, right?
Yeah, Saxon was APD car storage, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did it used to be anything before that?
Well, that
I I don't know.
That goes back, 15 years.
Okay. So I guess part of the reason I'm asking the question is I'm just curious about was there any contamination on the site?
Oh, no.
No, there was not. We monitor this USD tank. This tank here, this fuel island for AAPD, was replaced in recent years. So they have great monitoring in the area. So, and that was part of our geotechnical sampling. So no contamination.
So this next question I'm asking because I've heard a lot of exaggerated numbers here, but so for the footings on both sides, how much is that the only rebar that you guys are using for this project, or are you using other rebar? Because I've heard like there's miles and miles of rebar being used on this site, so I just want to get a sense of what's
I think,
real.
Felix, I think most of the rebar is going to be for the footings structure, that one, and then both ends. And I think most of the material, I mean, there's a lot of material still on site, but I could get you somewhere between
But it's not accurate to say that there's miles and miles of rebar on this
Well,
site.
If I may, your 4 to 6 inch slab that you're going to have here is going to have required to have number 6 rebar, probably 6 inches on 6.
So 6
So there's-
inches apart.
There's a grid.
It'll burn it up a lot throughout the pad.
I mean, if you think every 6 inches by 6 inches, there's going to be a grid within this. Now, they can put this up and do the structure, and then they can heat it. And then once it's heated, we can do the slab, and then you can do that during the winter. But getting these out is critical to get the dome up so that you can heat. You got a heated area.
Okay.
That's how we, at least that's
So
how
it's a
we
lot.
used to do it.
A lot. That's fair. It's, all right. So then
Thanksgiving.
that is going to
30
be the
years.
only entrance and exit for people using the facility.
No, that's going to be the main entrance,
Main
right
entrance.
entrance there, and then for the clients that come in, if they're getting here by driving
Yeah.
or being dropped off, they'll park basically on the other side here, and then the exit would be that way. Yeah.
What about people who are walking to the site? Where would they come into the site?
I don't know.
We have it's controlled an exit north and south, an entrance and exit north and south.
Okay, can you point to me where the north entrance is?
So it'll be somewhere near where the public affairs parking sign is there.
But Felix, are you talking inside, to come inside the fence, or not just in the building?
Pedestrian,
for people to-
pedestrian.
Yes, pedestrian people to walk
sorry. Yeah.
onto the site.
Yeah. So you're asking can they come from over there and this way?
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
so you're saying there's going to be an entrance.
No,
right
the
there.
entrance to the, I think the entrance to the building is over here.
Okay.
Getting to that entrance, I think you have to still come in that way. But I think that's the case.
Okay. All right.
I'll verify that.
I think there was a site in Lawrence Reed that shows who was actually
Yep.
I think what these reference is the CUP plans have the site layout. That's really
Thanks. So, in any of the permitting that you all did, one of the concerns that I've heard from the immediate neighbors who live close to here is about the ASD bus barn, and in particular the fumes that come from the ASD bus barn during the winter during inversions. They have a great impact on the neighbors, and so they're thinking if they do impact the neighbors, then possibility that they will impact clients staying here. Was that ever a part of the CUP process? Did you guys have to look into that, or is that just not something that the municipality has studied?
I am not aware, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I would have to talk to the folks that helped us through the conditional use to see if that issue was brought up, and particularly when they went out and visited the community councils, but I can follow up.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Good question.
That's it for now.
Actually, to go back to the rebar question, when we were told that there would be rebar that would need to be taken out, project was stopped. And so again, that's the rebar.
Yeah, Suzanne, the rebar that's in there, when it gets to the point where it's rusted, if it's in place and it starts to rust, it starts to lose its integrity, and then it either has to get cut off or reinstalled. And that is the rebar that's installed right now. That we would have to replace. And it's mostly just for structure pieces.
So one of the things, like, say if you did with a winter shutdown and hypothetically you want to start in the spring, the contractor would likely, like dome that with plastic or tent it to keep the, snow and everything from accumulating in it. but if it did kind of degrade or rust, it would have to be cut flush, and then you'd have to drill into the concrete and essentially epoxy anchor. It's a glue, and so it can be redone. It's just a little bit of redundancy. But either way, it comes down to the inspection. So when we issued the suspension of work, we brought had development services come out, all the inspection team, to say what would they accept if and when. What's your level of acceptance? Because when they pour, they have to come out and inspect also with our third party inspector, and it has to meet a level of acceptance prior to the time that we pour. So they told us at a certain extent, if it had so much rust, they would not accept it.
Okay.
And I've seen it on both ways on projects. So usually you cut it flush and epoxy anchor.
Okay. So the only rebar then in place now is here?
Correct. All they have there is a stood up form. They haven't placed rebar yet.
Do you have an idea of how much that costs to do that? They need that replacing?
We bounced around ideas on this just to say rework what's already up. So you have roughly 30 inches of rebar stood up there. So to rework, this is equivalent of a football field. What you see there is a football field 300 feet long. So to go cut all that is roughly, and we were playing with like $16,000 to redo what you see there.
Is that just the materials itself, or is that
That's material and labor. You have a guy, a couple guys go and cut them all.
I'm going to get the class back together so that we're all having the same conversation. And I know what we're talking about. That would be good. Thank you, Emily. And Seth. So, is there, again, if you leave and you have other questions, Felix, Suzanne, Pete, and Daniel, and Kevin, if you guys have them, just, I talked to Christopher. He said he wasn't going to make it today, but if you have questions, let us know. I still have some responses that I'm working on, so we'll get those to you no later than Monday, so that you can consider them before Tuesday night. So, I know Emily, you might have some other questions. So as soon as you work them through, we're going to work through Corey or Hans. So that's just kind of how we operate. You can send them to us. That's not a problem, but we'll work it that way. Same thing with questions for you guys, Suzanne. We'll prepare responses and we'll work them through Amy, and then get them back to you as soon as we can.
So since the class is back together,
Yes.
we were talking about the height, and you had said about
Yep. So imagine the floor probably being about right there, because we're gonna have to, as Kevin was mentioning, we're gonna backfill into there. That's about the height of the foundation. Like if you've ever been in a house construction, that's generally what it looks like. The slab's roughly gonna be another 6 inches, so it's probably gonna be about that high, and roughly. So overall, it's probably gonna be a little bit lower than the height of the fence, just for graphic kind of a look. I mean, obviously the ground on the fence is not level over there, but in general, that's about what it's going to be.
and that continue all the way to the parking area that
Yeah, I mean, because we're going to have the parking even with level. I don't believe there's any steps up. It's ADA instead of street.
This kind of fencing is going to be here.
I believe, Daniel, the fencing is going to stay. I mean, the locations where it's missing is where we were hooking up the utilities, water.
Two ways in and out.
Yeah, and I'll verify that. But yeah, there'll be one entrance in and that entrance out. I don't know if there's going to be other security or other fencing or any of that on that side. I don't.
Yeah, for the pictures, they make it look like there's nothing. there's even like this path back here.
Well, I think the nice thing about the CMGC is that those features of work that are, say they're a spring 23, it's easily to say that, fencing is going to be a spring 23 at best. But we have the option to flex any of that or change any of that. That's all flexible.
I mean, the entrance and the exits are not so much, but if there's other interests.
I guess you could have that set up to be a one-way where you only can come in that way and only.
We have it. That's the way the design's set up now, Pete, is so that they're coming in here in this diagonal parking in front of the structure, and that's how deliveries will be made. And so that you're not having a lot of. And plus, it's also good just for circulation in general.
I think I'm just trying to visualize and get a sense for, is the goal for this to be sort of secure and contained, or is the goal for it to be open and people can kind of come and go?
I think the latter. That's mostly an operational question, but the design piece, we have.
Sure. Someone else asked about low barrier, and yes, any shelter, right? You can't force people to stay in shelter, so there's gonna have to be the ability to come and go as they please.
Yeah, I think just design-wise,
Giant fence.
what does that do to the psychology of people who would maybe want to use the shelter? What's the perception there? And also, were there security issues that people
Yeah, that would be my thought, is that you can have a facade that's welcoming, but then you don't want people taking off on the property and heading off on the highway or something like that. So at some point, there needs to be barriers and even restrictions and flow of traffic through those different areas. Plus, I'm sure that the neighborhood would have that focus in one area rather than the people scattering to the way.
Daniel, and to Kevin's question, if there are changes about the access in and out, I think inside the project itself, we could probably make some of those accommodations. Why they're made, I think we're in the structure business, not the low barrier access businesses either.
Lance, can I ask, when I was on the project, there was no discussion of all of this fill. Saxton had said that when he built this parking lot, he had dug out the peat and filled it, and that's the reason this site was so desirable, because we didn't need a foundation, we had the foundation. Now that it's being built up so much, what mitigation is being done for drainage? Because we're up so much higher than everything else around it. How is that going to be managed?
I don't know. I can find out. Because it's going to be part of the development process. The folks that helped us with the permitting, we can find out.
I think that the biggest feature of work that drove the elevation of this pad was the utilities and connecting out to the street where the water sewer is at. Proper sloping of the utilities, and I do. And that I remember talking to you about this project because in 2012 I was with a private contractor for 10 years when I built the evidence storage lot, and I have all my project photos, everything, and that. And I remember I've never built a project that didn't go down to super material. That lot out there had, pretty in depth, probably 15 foot of excavation, and after 15 foot of excavation, you still didn't get down to good gravel material. But that was the design, and it was sufficient for its intended use. So that was a discussion back and forth. The CRW is a very effective, accurate engineering firm for civil, and they were one of our term contractors. And so we went back and forth about this elevation, and there was no getting around what this site required for drainage and for connection to utilities and effective slope for your sewer. It required this elevation.
Yeah. Otherwise, you need a pump.
That exactly, a lift station. So like Sullivan Arena, it has a lift station, and it's each pumps. There's multiple pumps in that facility. They're $6,500 a piece, and we know every time somebody flushes something shouldn't be flushed, it's not a garbage disposal, and it destroys that pump, and it's a complete replacement. So this, it's an effective elevation for effective operation.
I just wonder how it's going to affect
the parking lot. Yeah.
the wetlands, even if you fill them.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yep.
like an outdoor recreation area that's planned to go with the facility?
I don't think so. No.
I guess it's all services and meals.
I was just looking at design documents. Your question just
Daniel, can I borrow that for a
made
minute?
me wonder how much of this green space and area would be.
Oh, it's just a placeholder.
Yeah.
There's nothing set in stone for that. You know, one of the interesting things you'll see on one of those first couple of graphics is Roger Hickel came up with an idea that it saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's the beauty of the CMGC process. If you were lumped in under contract with a contractor on a low bid situation, any change would cost extra just to make the change than the cost. So what you see on page 2, the air handlers and major mechanical, electrical, plumbing equipment standing on a pre-engineered metal platform, we made that change to slab on grade. So we'll pour concrete out here on a pad and mount the mechanical, electrical, plumbing equipment on the pad. That saved over, I think, $150,000 alone, just making that change. So we factored for the platform, metal platform, and we swapped it out for concrete, and it saved that much money. Just a simple change like that. Graphics haven't caught up with that change, but
Got it.
yeah.
For those of you watching, we will be posting these documents on the work session page as soon as we can, probably on Monday.
So, what about snow buildup? What's anticipated to be sort of upright?
Part of the successful utilization of the sprung structure requires proper snow removal around the perimeter. We know that from the other building that exists on the MOA books up there in Eagle River. And so you have to maintain that perimeter clearing. And so snow storage would be out there in that empty lot, because beyond those established storm drains and that metal bucket, that all is not developed land. That will remain undeveloped. And so it'll likely be a good spot for snow storage. I mean, it was prior, when APD owned the lot and occupied, they used the open areas here for snow storage. So it was part of their plan, and we'll probably continue that use.
And so you think the snow will just slide off it, or you're going to have to get somebody up to shovel it? Or
That's part of the equation. Is it doesn't carry the load; it sheds the load.
sheds the load?
It sheds the load.
All right.
Yep. But we've added additional structures, structural integrity to the already recommended structure formula to satisfy requirements, and so it's been well discussed and thought out. That part.
All right, good. Thanks.
Have those been reviewed by the community engineers at this point? I know previously they hadn't been yet, but
Correct. Yep. They remain under review. They even provided courtesy reviews before we ordered the structure, so it's been an ongoing conversation with them, because we wanted to make sure that we had a good understanding before we went down this road.
Yeah, I know. I was reading their comments and they had some questions about the wind
Yep.
and the snow load, that kind of stuff.
Right. The ball is in our consultant's court to provide a thorough response back to those comments. So the last permit to obtain is the building permit, and in order to keep the schedule, what we did was we asked, hey, can we fill it for the fill and grade? Can we have the fill and grade separate from the building permit? And they said yes, you've satisfied all those comments. So we got that separate. And then when they got up the elevation, we were prepared for footing and foundations. And so they were satisfied with all the comments and the structural calculations. And they're like, yes, we can separate that from the building permit. And so it's been grabbing things as we needed just to stay in front of the contractor and stay compliant. So it's been juggling just to stay ahead of everything.
Is that kind of an unusual process, especially without some of those reviews being done to be moving ahead?
Oh, the reviews have been done. There's nothing outside of the ordinary. No one will disagree. This is moving fast. The CMGC processes typically do, even with the muni and outside entities. So it's normal. I asked our consultant the same thing in preparation for this meeting. Have we done anything outside the norm? Because MCG manages ASD projects and Department of Defense projects. And they said this is the nature of the game. And that's what they're under contract for us, is to properly advise. Because it's new. It's kind of a newer contract delivery to the municipality. There's only a couple projects the municipality's done under CMGC. Solid Waste Services is probably the most recent one, and I believe the court had one. And we referenced that when the AM, we tried to find a baseline, something that was successfully passed reform, and I believe we referenced that when there was proceeds many of our time. I think it was Eagle River or Anchorage Regional Landfill Maintenance Building. That was a CMP.
Anybody else have questions? Are you good, Taylor?
Yes, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Suzanne.
Dan,
Yeah.
Jackson, appreciate it. And I guess with that, then, if there are no other questions, usually right when I say there are no other questions.
All right, class dismissed.
I can keep asking questions for the next hour, but I won't do that.
Take it for a spin?
No.
All right.